I just want to say thank you very much to the team of ACSI. It's such a privilege to actually meet all of you and see the faces. I see a lot of women here today, I must say, and it makes me excited because we usually think that sport in general are so linked to men. But after the successful Netball World Cup and the Cricket World Cup, where our ladies and of course Banyana that really stepped up, I just go, oh, it's joyous to see that God has a position for females in sport as well. Now, ladies and gents, yes, I just want to quickly say, my mom always said that people will not trust you unless you share a bit of your heart. So allow me, Anri and the team, to just quickly enlighten you. I think all of us have different hats. And when you put on the hat as a businesswoman, I just in quick and in short, of course, been in social media, or actually in media and Christian media for the past 20 years. I've been involved with radio most of my life. And then for the past couple of years, 7 years or so, I've been the editor for Finesse magazine, Vroue wat Glo, or Women Who Believe. So I've been in printing media quite a bit. And then I did do a couple of stints on TV. So media has been in my blood for the past 20 years. And I think when God actually starts doing something, he prepares you for what he sees in your future. Now, the wings of this butterfly has grown into a place where we go, okay, God, what's next? What's next? And so God and Sport actually were birthed about last year, October. Now, I can't give you the full picture about God and Sport without you saying the personal side. I grew up in a house where there was very strict divisions between God first, then family, and then sport. Now, that doesn't mean that we were actually very good at sport. Let me tell you, I grew up in a house where we were passionate, screaming at the television, watching comrades every year, watching every rugby video or every rugby game. But we were the first ones on the field and the last ones off, but we never even made provincial colors. So I am actually the face of the very general public when it comes to sport in South Africa. So if I speak to the crowds, I always say, you know what, I know how you feel when you start speaking about sport and the power of sport, because it's when you can actually take the power and the unification of sport and you bring it into amongst people. It can actually just bring that gel. So can you imagine if you take God, who's the big unifier, and you actually put sport and God together and you say, okay, let's meet on those fields. It just opens up so many playing fields. So that's why I'm here this morning. And I want to say, Anri, thank you for the opportunity. I'm definitely here to just show you my heart. I'm not here to sell anything to you. I'm showing my heart. And let's go back a couple of months, about 10 months ago. Anri mentioned that we wrote a book, and yes, last year, October, we had the privilege of starting to pin down 41 of South Africa's biggest sports people into books. Because Afrikaans is my native tongue, I then, of course, started writing Luister, God se stem in my lewe. We then translated it because we realized that so many people are really, really loving the concept. So we actually translated into Listen, God's Voice in My Life. And the thing is, I truly saw that when God gives you an opportunity and he gives you a command and you do 100%, he takes it to the next level, and he does 110%. But we just have to be faithful. Now, I want to take you back about 6 or 7 years ago. I did a sports book with Books at that stage, and it was just before the Rugby World Cup. And I saw that our country was in need of hope. And the word hope really stood out. And we actually wrote a book, and it was a message of hope. And we started out with the boodskap van hoop. And we saw how 11,000 copies got sold in South Africa in a matter of 4 months. And we just realized that, you know what, people are really looking to see the realness of God in well-known people's stories. And so about 7 years went on. And last year, October, I again felt something in my spirit. And because I'm in the media, I get to rub shoulders with a lot of South Africa's well-known people, and they get to tell their stories in different formats to us. But again, I just felt this one thing in my spirit, and I was like, God, what is this? Now, I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I was this very black and white logical thinker. I always knew that God was real, but I always wanted to hear his voice. And they kept on chasing me out of the Sunday school class at that stage, because they would go, the Sunday school teacher would go, So God spoke to Abraham, or God spoke to Jacob, and I would go, but wait, how does God's voice sound like? And after the 6th or 7th time that I actually started asking the question continuously, they say to me, Karien, you're a disruption in the Sunday school class. And they would chase me out of the Sunday school class. And I see a lot of women just laughing because, you know what, I bet you have children like that, always asking questions, right? And my mom was the one that just said, oh, God, please. And she literally prayed, she said, God, please just answer my daughter. That's so logical and so black and white about your voice. And she gave me this box of cards and she said, this is a bread upon the water card. So if you open this little box of cards, there's Bible verses in it. Do you know it? Now, these cards, I promise you, were not a lotto machine, but my mom just said, you pray over these cards and then you draw a card and go and read the whole Bible verse and the whole chapter to get the essence of God's heart for you. And so with those Bible cards and the scriptures, God has been literally guiding me my whole life. And I'm 43 this year, and he's been guiding me through all the major decisions in my life through that. So last year, October, I'm giving you the behind the scenes, is because I was sitting and I felt something in my spirit. And I was like, God, what is this? And I prayed and I drew a card and he gave me Psalm 9. And now if you go and read Psalm 9 in the Message translation, it starts off and it says, I'm writing a book on your wonders, God. And then it continues and it mentions every sporting terminology that you can think of. He says, you're blowing a whistle on godless nations, chasing them off the field, taking them out of the Hall of Fame. You're jumping for joy and leaping. And I stood back and I was yet again just so in awe with what God, if he gives you something, he gives it 110%. And he was like, okay, God, we're writing a book, but it's about your wonders and it's a sports book. And so immediately I phoned up my friend and colleague. She's the partner in the book, and her name is Tanya, Powell, our husband. I know you guys know quite well. Neil Powell, he's of course the coach, former Blitzbox coach, and he's now the director of the Sharks Rugby. And I said, Tanya, you know what? I know this is the worst time for you, but God said we must do this book. And I know that you're now moving to Natal and starting a whole new season, but I know that I love sport. And I've been involved in sport my whole life through media. I said, but you live sport. And that brings a completely different set of geloofwaardigheid. What is it's accountability and faithfulness. And I said to her, you know what? I need you to do this book with me. And I know God will bless this. And the reason why I don't jump into God and sport immediately, but start focusing on the book itself, is because out of the book, we captured 41 of South Africa's biggest sports people. But the thing is, God also said, don't just write their stories. He literally took it further and he said, you know what? You're going to have to put these people in front of a camera because, yes, people can read a story and kids can read a story, but what is more important is if you start rubbing shoulders with them and if you actually see their story through their own eyes and if you actually hear their own voice through and their own hearts through their own voices. And so we put these guys and girls in front of cameras and we recorded them asking a completely different set of questions than what we wrote in the chapter. And we took a QR code and we placed it after each and every chapter. So when you actually read the chapter now, and you come to the end of the chapter, let's take Joey Mongale here. He's the Sharks. So when you actually then come to the end of your chapter, you actually get the QR code. And when you scan the QR code, it takes you to the website God InSport. And God InSport is hosting now 55 of the videos and a completely different story from these sports people's hearts. So you get to discover them. It's almost a book in a book. You get to discover them as a person with their most intimate stories, and they're sharing their hearts and they're answering these questions that, what's my biggest fear in my life? And what am I most grateful for? And what is my message to South Africa? And what is the biggest thing that you think that women and men actually battle with in their lives? But then after reading the chapter, you scan the QR code, you go to a video of anything between 8 and 15 minutes where they start speaking about those certain times in their lives where it was really tough and where they had to meet God face to face and they had that personal encounter. And I promise you, when you start seeing people like a Dwayne Vermeulen opening up about the fact that he lost his dad at the age of 8, and he had to make his sister's ponytails before going to school in the morning because his mom had to keep 2 jobs to actually just put food on the table, and how it became difficult in their lives, and how he had to actually get raised by his grandparents. You suddenly completely look different at this young man who is the captain for South Africa in some of the games. You completely look different at this man's life and his leadership abilities. And it's almost then as if you go, okay, God, now I know why you're putting him in a spot where he's responsible for 15 or 25 other young men's lives, where he has direct input into the Springboks in South Africa. And let me tell you, where they actually have an influence in the whole world, in the whole of South Africa's young people's lives. And then you start seeing and you start celebrating the fact that these men and women are actually really children of God. And you start realizing, and you would say, but why don't they speak more openly about their Christianity? And I start realizing that there's a whole difference between your personal life, honesty, and your private life. And you start respecting the fact that they're not going to walk around and proclaim on every platform, hey, I'm a Christian. But when you really spend time with them and you really meet with them face to face, they will show their heart and they will say, you know what, can I tell you about my encounter with God? And then you get to meet people like a Victor Matfield, for instance, which you see every Saturday on the television, but you actually see a completely different side of a man where he says, I saw God and a miraculous hand of God in my life at one stage where I didn't have answers. Now, I don't want to give you all the info about the chapters in this book, but let me tell you, it's life-changing. Now, I don't have children, but I was really involved with all of my friends as raising their children, and my brothers and my sisters, girls, and I just really saw a big question in young people's hearts about not just my identity, but who am I? What's my purpose? How will God use my school career for my future? He uses teachers, he uses coaches to really speak and form characters. And the thing is, Tanya came on board and she's got 2 young boys, a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old. And in her instance, they're looking at a dad that's got more records and more medals as a coach and as a player than any other coach. And they immediately go, but we want to be my dad. And then how Tanya steps forward as a mother and say, you know what, you don't want to become your dad. You want to find your identity in God first. Yes, that's fine. Have your dreams and trust God to say, you know what, God, what's my purpose? And yes, celebrate your gifts and talents. But first and foremost, find your identity in God. Don't make the mistake of finding your identity in sport or anything else, but find your identity in God. And I promise you, with that essence and with that as a platform, we actually went to these people. We said, okay, so where do you find your identity? And 9 out of 10 of them actually said, you know what, for a very long time in my life, I was just as good as the scoreboard said I was good. Or just when I take my rugby jersey off, or when I take the green and gold off, I don't know who I am. And I had to walk the path where I actually said, okay, God, show me who am I as a person. And you know what? This book is something so vivid, and it's something so real, and it's so powerful. And I think the golden thread throughout this whole book is, yes, we're imperfect people serving a perfect God. None of these people, and believe me, not me, nor Tanya, nor anybody of the mean team behind the scene that actually made this happen, is saying we've got it all figured out and we are perfect people. No, and in fact, we have a lot of mistakes. But the thing is, we're saying, God, your grace every day on our lives. Help us to hear your voice on a daily basis. Guide us with every decision and every day. And yeah, so this is, in a nutshell, God and sport. I can't divide the two at the moment. It's almost like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, this is now the egg and the chicken, but this is the very first product under the umbrella God in Sport. So God in Sport is the umbrella. It's the website where everything lives on. So if you go and you click on www.godinsport, you'll find that the book is our very first product. It's being sold at the moment, and we just this morning we heard that we hit the top 50 bestsellers list for bargain books and exclusive books. We've only launched about 4 weeks ago. We launched in Pretoria and in Cape Town, and we've sold more than 4,000 books. Thank God, more than 4,000 books in a matter of 4 weeks. With every sale, I promise you, I'm just seeing sheep, and I'm going, okay, God, if you did it for one person's soul, then this was all worth it. So Garden Sport is I think a project where when Annelie phoned me and said, Karien, we would love to somehow connect with the schools, it immediately jumped in our souls, because we know this can be an amazing tool, not just for the coaches and teachers, but for kids. It's an array of sports and sports people, and they are open to share their stories, and there's coaches in it. So I can't wait to see how we can actually take hands. Please go and visit the website. It's www.gardensport. You'll see if you open up, there's, of course, 35 videos, short snippets, just to give you a teaser. You can't, unfortunately, see the full videos because you have to buy the book and then scan the QR code to actually then get the full videos. But you will be able to see the teaser videos. And then there's, of course, podcasts. So you can also download the podcast, listen to the podcasts, and yeah, we can buy the book online, or else you can, of course, then buy the book at any shop, Books, Exclusive Books, Bargain Books, Wordsworth. But now this is, I almost feel like Oprah Winfrey that goes, wait, there is more. I can't tell you, look under your seat, because you're going to get a car key or you're going to get a free book. But Annelie is excited to announce that we will be taking hands in October, and we're going to introduce an online seminar or a mentorship. We don't want to call it a course. It's a mentorship session of about an hour or two. And we're going to ask 3 of our coaches to actually spend some quality time with teachers and coaches. A time where we can ask questions, where they impart into coaches' hearts, where coaches again can go and impart into young students and future Springboks and Banyana stars and Protea players. So I must tell you, as an end, this is so in time. Like I said, when God does something, when he gives you an opportunity to do something for South Africa, you must just be faithful in the little, because he actually literally just made it in time so that we could reach the Protea World Cup. The Rugby World Cup is soon to start, and then, of course, the Cricket World Cup. So, yes, I'm open for any questions. So if there's any questions, feel free.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the introduction, Karien. And you've just got a way to get us so excited about what God is doing in so many people's lives as we speak. You know, our plenary session at our teacher conferences is about God. Everyone loves stories and how God speaks to us through stories. And this is another opportunity for people to hear about God and from God through the stories of others. So we're really excited to launch this online coaching session with the coaches, the mentorship, and as soon as we've got the date of the coaches' availability, we're going to launch that. So there will be 2 options. The one option will be 500 Rand, and then it will include the book so that you can actually read the book before you attend the seminar. Or if you can't wait for that registration to open and you already go and buy your book, then it will be a 200 Rand cost to attend the webinar on the day. So we'll open those up to you guys. Please make sure that you are on the ACSI Sports Forum WhatsApp group. Claudia will quickly just post the number for us on the chat. So make sure you're on that chat so that when our date is set, that we can make sure that you get the message. And please help us to really market this to your schools, to your coaches, so that we can get these one-on-one sessions. This is more than just reading a story in a book. This is going to be able to face these coaches and maybe ask them a more personal question, spend time with them, get personally inspired. And it will be an online webinar or meeting like this where you can actually see them face to face, not just a recording or a video, but they'll get to know your name basically and pray over you as a coach for your school and our Christian schools, our Christian coaches. It has such a big impact on that. So I saw some questions in the chat. Arina said it would be nice to have a personal meet day, maybe for the future. Is it future further? So for the future, yes. So the date would be set in October. As we're saying, we're just waiting for the availability of the coaches. So Karien explained to me that this is their pre-season, with most of the sports actually heading towards their peak over the December, January, February period. So we're hoping to catch them now here in the preseason, where they are motivating their teams, they're going to come and motivate us. So as soon as that date is finalized, the registrations for that will open, and we'll get you guys to sign up for that. It'll also be advertised on our ACSI website. Maybe we can ask Karien if we can put a link on the InSport site, if that's possible, but we'll definitely advertise it, and we'll really want to even include the teachers who work, or the coaches who work in public schools. So everyone would be invited to attend that. Okay, I don't know if there's anything anybody else wants to say. There's a lot of advertising and videos on the InSport site, like Karien mentioned as well, that you guys can go and watch and get motivated to do that. Cool. Anything from anybody? The floor is open. Neil, maybe a word of wisdom from your end?
I was going to say probably the only word that you're going to get is the very loud screaming in the background of the children who are out at break at the moment. But that's a good sound as well. And it reminds us why we do all that we do and why sport is such an integral part of everything that happens in schools, that the children can be inspired. And there are many of those little Dwaynes and such like running around outside here, and who knows where they might end up one day. But Karien, I just wanted to say to you and Baden, who I hope can at least hear us, that it's been a real inspiration to hear you and to hopefully inspire not only those who have managed to join this morning, but the broader community of ACSI. And I'm really excited about the possibility of us moving forward and of honoring God through all that he has done. You know, he's given us bodies to enjoy. He's given us sports to enjoy as well, and even sports like Ultimate that many of us don't know about, that there is no doubt that will be an avenue that many of our schools is. And I'm thinking in particular some of the smaller schools that even at break time they can get together and start up a game of Ultimate, and who knows where that might grow to in the future. So there's not too much I want to say, but just to say thank you to both Karien and I see he's disappeared again. But just to say thank you for being part of us. And I have no doubt that our October date is going to be a far bigger one than the small group that's gathered today. So yeah, thank you very much, Karien.
Thank you for the opportunity, Neil. I truly appreciate it. It's always good to have similar-minded and similar-hearted people. It's so important. And I truly believe, ladies, I think never, ever, ever, and teachers, never, ever underestimate your work, and coaches, never underestimate your work. Can I tell you, each and every one of these sports stars said that if it wasn't for their coaches, they wouldn't have been here. Somebody like Joe Mongalo still goes back to his, and Angelo Davids, he still goes back to his school's coaches. There's pictures in this book, if I must show you, where they actually stand with their school coaches and they go, if it weren't for you guys, then I wouldn't have been here. So the influence that you have on youngsters on a daily basis, you've got more sometimes influence than parents in their lives. So I almost want to say, enjoy every second. It's such an opportunity and such a privilege. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Karien. And I also just wanted to tell you that firstly, I wanted to say thank you to Annery, because it's at her inspiration that we actually had this meeting today with you, Karien. And I was down in the Western Cape at the time, and she even phoned me down there to say, I just can't wait until tomorrow. I need to tell you this now. So I share in her excitement about partnering with you and being the interface between what you're doing in InSport and what our teachers are doing in the various ACSI schools across South Africa. So thank you to Annery for setting it up. And thank you to Karien for being here, and to all of you teachers who are part of the team that are going to inspire the future stars of South Africa.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. And we bless you. We send you off. And I know that most of the school sports will probably be finishing over in the next month or so. Those going to semi-finals and finals. And then so when we have our meeting in October, hopefully a lot of you would not be too busy coaching at that time. So it's a nice quieter time for the coaches. So hopefully that it'll give you time to attend the meeting. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a fantastic day, and we'll inform you soon about what our date for this meeting is going to be.